Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to be doing, I'm gonna be 100%. I think this is either the 6K, 7K. I know we're at 8,000 at the time of recording this video. The support you guys are giving me is absolutely insane. I kind of call these like the 5K, 6K special, almost as like a joke, because the support you guys are giving me, I'm never really gonna catch up. I do plan on something, a new different type of video at the 10K special. That's something I'm kind of fooling around with, but this tier list that I'm going to be doing today is something that a few of you guys, actually a lot of you guys, I got 200 villain submissions for the video game villain tier list, and I'm going to be 100% honest with you. As you can tell, there is not 200 names on here, because we would be here all day. I just want to go over some villains that I either want to rant about, because they're either really good or really bad, villains that I'm actually somewhat knowledgeable about, and villains that honestly, I mean, they just deserve a spot. Like, here's the thing. I don't play a lot of Zelda. I know about Ganon. Like, you're gonna see how I place these, but there's a few of these I just need to talk about. Huge fan of video games. Most people that watch this channel, I'm going to assume are another fan of video games. And I just don't want to have a long-winded intro here. Let's get straight into it with the video game villain tier list. Let's get started with Vaas, dude. Listen. Far Cry 3. I got some stuff I want to talk about Far Cry. Vaas is such a great villain. The craziest part about it is, like, you know he's a good villain when back in the day, the person who did the motion capture for Vaas ended up making a full career out of it. He saw it like a little, like, a cinematic special where he actually, like, got into, like, the makeup and, like, actually looked like Vaas, filmed a few promos, and they're really funny. They're still on YouTube today. His performance in the game is amazing. Bro made a full career in acting off of portraying a video game character. If I say that now, that doesn't sound super crazy. Back then, that was crazy. Vaas in Far Cry 3, in my mind, actually, I'm not even in my mind, I think this is kind of just recognized truth. He was the guy that made Far Cry the franchise and just put it on the map. The thing I gotta say about Far Cry is an unbelievably mid-game with great villains. For whatever reason, that's just kind of what they've been pegged for. My guess is Far Cry 3 back in the day was a good game. Far Cry 4, in the day that it came out, was a good game. They always have villains that stand the test of time, and I feel like that's where all the writing goes into play, because outside of that it is pretty weak. Vaas was the start of this trend. Like, when the first time that you're playing, like about halfway through the game, you're like, okay, Vaas, he's a crazy military leader, evil dude, right? He's evil, don't get me wrong, and the games that he plays with Jason just slowly dwindle away his sanity and going into the finale of the game until you realize Vaas, in a sense, is the same type of victim. I don't want to get into extreme spoilers not because like, I mean, it's been long enough since the game's come out. I am not the greatest expert on the lore of Far Cry, but all I'm going to tell you is by the end of the game, you look at Vaas and you're kind of like, you know what? I don't agree at all, okay? But I understand why we got to this point. To get that in a villain, to me, that automatically catapults you up, and he is the standard in which I will be judging a lot of these villains. I am going to put him in S tier. I think S tier is a very valid placement for a Vaas. Anybody that has a problem with that, I am actually very curious to see your argument in the comment section. He's not quite in Legacy yet. You're going to understand what Legacy villains are in a minute. But I think Vaas S tier to set the bar for everybody else. I think that's perfectly valid. Next up, we're going into Skyrim's Alduin. Okay. I love Bethesda games, okay? I really do. I like Bethesda games. Started with Skyrim, and I never could get into Oblivion. That was a little bit before I really got into games. Skyrim, Fallout 4. I even dabbled in a Fallout 3 before. Skyrim was the game that got me into this, okay? Dude. Alduin in lore compared to Alduin in the game is night and day. For whatever reason, Bethesda will go and, like, talk the most badass, aura-filled characters inside of a book, okay? Like, peak fiction is written inside of Skyrim. And then when it comes time to sew off Alduin, I'm just gonna say it. He is a reskinned dragon boss with a cool voice actor. And maybe he does a few shouts. Whoop-de-doo, there's also dragons that can do that. Alduin in the game, okay? Alduin in the game is not a great villain. I think a lot of people, when they're playing Skyrim for the first time, maybe they'll be like what I mean by the first time, I mean like you're a kid playing Skyrim. Alduin's kind of like a boss, like, oh, I can't wait to fight Alduin. But then, like, when you look back on it, or you do multiple playthroughs, you're kind of like, oh, cool, Alduin. Like, there's certain DLC bosses that are a better character objectively than Alduin is. I understand there's a great lore of Skyrim between him and the other Dragonborns, between him and the Greybeards. Dog, Ulfric Stormcloak is a better, quote-unquote, villain than Alduin is, written-wise. Like, from what we see in the game. This one's gonna be tough. I might have to... Okay, let me just also say this. There is a lack of a personal connection that you have to Alduin. Let me explain, because it's going to come into play with a lot of the other villains. I should have said it with Vaas. The reason that Vaas works as a villain so greatly is he is not only a force of nature, but there is a personal connection that he has to Jason. Like, that you start feeling the hate for Vaas going into the ending. Alduin is kind of like, oh, you're a dragon. I'm the Dragonborn. I have to fight you because of prophecy. Like, we don't know what the Dragonborn was doing before he got arrested. We genuinely don't know. Like, there's no connection between me and Alduin outside of I have to fight you. And that's why I'm putting him in D tier. Alduin is a very overrated boss. He's not the worst ever, but he is... When we're talking about the greatest villains in video games, Alduin's in D tier. I'm sorry. Joseph Seed from Far Cry 5. Joseph Seed, dude. Maybe it's because, like, I live, like, I'm gonna assume, actually, I think most of the people are Americans here. There's something about Joseph Seed. Like, the thought, like, I lived in country towns my entire life. The thought of being in a super secluded country town, where, like, everybody knows each other, and then a super charismatic leader comes in and, like, takes advantage of, like, the shared collective thought that everybody has, which is, like, religion, right? Somebody's able to come in and use that as a control vector on everybody else. And even when he's brutalizing your neighbors into submission, you follow him because of like, it's fear, but it's also an almost like a weird obligation that you have because he's replaced the faith that you had before. I'm sorry I got, like, weirdly philosophical there, but, like, there's something about the way that Joseph Seed is in Far Cry 5. Honestly, this was the guy, like, a lot of you guys commented Joseph Seed, so that tells me a lot of you guys really like Joseph Seed as a villain. And there's something about it. Dude, he is that good. Is he better than Vaas, though? I'm going to say no. I think they trivialized certain portions of his character, and Far Cry New Dawn wasn't my favorite game. But when you're fighting him in Far Cry 5, it went from something to where you have to go to arrest him. And dude, I talk shit about Far Cry and Ubisoft games. Whoever was in charge of writing the opening section of Far Cry 5 deserves a raise. You need a whole game, dude. When you're walking through this compound and you see, like, the brutal nature of what, like, his cult is doing. Like, this, almost like the sternness in the air. And then you walk into the chapel. And then you see the Seed family. The rest of, all the other Seed brothers and sisters, you're kind of like, okay. And then Joseph Seed comes in, walks up to you. Doesn't look like the most physically intimidating, doesn't even look the meanest. But there's such an aura of, like, we need to get the fuck out of here. But you have to arrest him, unless you want to get the secret ending. Joseph Seed is such a great villain, dude. He really is. Like, I wanted to do the full Seed family, but, like, I think Joseph Seed is the epitome of, like, he is a force of nature, but also, like, is a person that you kind of want to understand more about. Like, what's going on with his psyche. That is a full character study that better people than me have done, and if you haven't gone down that rabbit hole, I actually recommend you do. Such a great villain. I'm done ranting on him. A tier, dude. He might... We'll get to that in a second. William Afton from Five Nights at Freddy. I'm gonna make a few people mad here because he is going above Alduin. He is, because William Afton, when you go into the lore of the Five Nights at Freddy's, you realize just how depraved and evil this guy is. Like, he really is. Like, even to his own children. Like, there is, like, I don't even want to say love. It's almost like an evil human being compelled by something in nature to have, like, some type of, like care for something that's, like, their child. But along with, like, caring for their child, like, what, like, that need that is in, like, all people, I like to think. There's something that corrupts that, just how evil Afton is in the FNAF universe. I watched a lot of game theory as a kid. One of my all-time favorite channels, I do miss MatPat quite a bit. The way that he would explain William Afton, I'll be real, dude. I'm not going to pretend to understand Five Nights at Freddy's lore a lot. Mostly because the creator of FNAF openly admitted that he changes the lore just to beat MatPat, which is kind of a dick move if you think about it. Imagine being MatPat and you devoted years of your life only for the creator to actually change the story and fuck up the story in the long run just so people wouldn't figure. Like, that's such a dick move, honestly, dude. He's the dude that killed all the children, and, like, the children's spirits, possess the Five Nights at Freddy's animatronics, and depending on what game you're playing, you are actually might be the child of Afton, and that's why they're trying to kill you. But Afton is never seen in the game outside of being in Springtrap, which is the bunny robot that's in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. I know way too much about that lore, bro. All you need to understand, evil dude, interesting character to talk about in terms of what he's done, pretty good story. I'm gonna put him in C tier. C tier. Micah Bell. Listen, we're over a minute in. I can cuss. What a fucking twat, dude. Micah Bell, dude. Like, there's a few people here. Like, to be a good villain, there has to be, like, a personal connection that you must have to the villain. That's why there's no Dark Souls bosses here, even though they can kind of make it. But, like, Micah Bell, you don't even have a personal connection with the guy. It's more of like, dog, I don't like you as a person. You look like you stink, dude. I bet you smell like whiskey, blood, and shit. You look... like, there is such an overwhelming... Like, I wanted to cap him halfway through the game. Like, I could have told you this guy was a detriment. Like, we're gonna talk about Dutz Vanderlyn, because Dutz... Controversially, I think Dutz is more evil than Micah is. Because Micah is a scavenger by nature. I don't think there's, like, this predatory, like, he wants to... Like, I don't think there's, like, this... There's something there, dude. Like, something about Micah. It's like, he'll take what he wants, but doesn't have, like, the spine to take any type of consequence for it. But, like, I feel like Micah understands that he's doing bad shit. But he just lacks the character to do anything about it. His villainy definitely took a skyrocket after Arthur Morgan died. Because then it turned to, I don't think he truly... Like, he had a vendetta against Arthur. Because I think he saw Arthur as somebody that he isn't. Like... Arthur Morgan is a dude, like, that would be a great video to do as well, Heroes. Arthur Morgan is a dude that, by all intents and purposes, is a bad person, is a murderer, is a thief, has... Like, we don't know what he did in his past. But, like, if you played the High Honor, which I do believe is the canon, was able to overcome that and become a good person. I think Micah Bell, at least how I believe he was written... I think on a deep level, he is envious of Arthur Morgan in that way, and he resents him for that, and that's why there was malice when he killed Arthur. You're a piece of shit is really what I'm trying to tell you, dude. That's like the philosophical way of saying, you're a piece of shit, you don't have a spine, and I have a problem with every little bit of your being. He's a villain that you love to hate, and you just hate to see him on screen breathing. End of the prologue was goated. I'm gonna put him in B tier, though. He's a good villain. B tier. Pagan Min, Far Cry 4. Far Cry 4 was, in my mind, the last great Fallout. Far Cry game. That fumbled, man. Far Cry 3, goated. Far Cry 4, great. Far Cry 5, good. Let me explain, because I feel like Ubisoft, they realized they had a formula success with Far Cry 3. They just duplicated again. But dude, they did it on an island again in Far Cry 4. And when Far Cry 4, one of the biggest criticisms of Far Cry 4 is that they just copied Far Cry 3 and then just plugged in a few different factions. And then they were nervous that if they released another island game, people would dislike it. Because Far Cry 4 is less successful than Far Cry 3 overall. So they went to the most opposite thing from an island nation, Montana, and then that was Far Cry 5. And then they went back to an island, basically Cuba, in Far Cry 6. Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with Far Cry, dude. Far Cry 4, though, Pagan Min, I mean, he has a personal connection to the hero, a twisted psychology that you want to understand more of. He's more interesting than Micah. That guarantees him an A spot. Do I put him above Joseph Seed? Controversial opinion. Joseph Seed is the second greatest villain in the entirety of Far Cry. Pagan Min is number 3. I'm going to put him at an A-. Next up, Khotun Khan. If I remember my Ghost of Tsushima correctly, he is the grandson of Genghis Khan, or the great... I'm just going to say the grandson of Genghis Khan. Khotun Khan is, actually is a historical This is what I liked about Ghost of Tsushima. So, unless you listen to Joe Rogan, you would know the reason that the Mongols were never able to take over the entirety of Japan was because of a storm. There was constant storms, a little mini tsunami, and it took out almost the entirety of the Mongol fleet going from Tsushima to, Japan. Where I liked it, and where they kept on saying, like, I think in the ending of the game, Jin Sakai says something as, like, I am the storm, or something like that. That was such a cool thing to me, because Khotun Khan historically died in the storm when he went to Japan. So when he dies right next to his fleet, as they're about to go to mainland Japan, it is kind of a cool, like, oh, I see what you did there. That's pretty cool. As far as a villain... The Mongol, you have to, like, when you get into, like, the Mongol beliefs, they believed in, like, conquering, but they also believed in assimilating other cultures. Khotun Khan has no real vendetta against the Japanese samurai. He doesn't have a real vendetta against them. It is purely, I am going to conquer you. And where I will give Ghost of Tsushima credit is when you get something like that, okay? It's very easy to make your villain a caricature of just I'm evil for the sake of being evil. You can sense in Khotun Khan, it's purely, I have to do what is necessary to win, and I can't feel guilt for something that I was destined to do, and that is conquering Japan. I think the only vendetta he really carries against the Japanese is that they are so obsessed with honor, and they believe they are above the Mongols, that it almost causes him in a way to resent them because they believe they are above. And he is right. I mean, Jin Sakai was able to beat the Mongols in the game because he kind of just let go of that honor and became the Ghost of Tsushima. Khotun Khan as a villain is a very good... Is very good... I forget what it is. It's a very good foil for Jin Sakai, in where... Khotun Khan represents, like, the conqueror's mindset. There is no honor. There is only blood in conquering. And Jin Sakai comes from a dude that is honor, and losing that honor to be a bigger monster. Khotun Khan as a villain, I'm going to put him at the bottom of B tier. I really do like him. I think he's a pretty good villain. Next up, Zeus from the God of War original trilogy. Deadbeat dad, 100%. Now, there is some things that you can get into lore-wise, like, he was evil because, really, the prophecy turned out to be true. Kratos was going to be the person to kill him and slay the entire pantheon. But maybe, like, he tried to kill Kratos almost out of, like, I need to protect everybody else. And then when Pandora's box was open, you can argue all the evil that came into the world infected Zeus and then made him significantly more evil later on in the game. That's how you get into that final scene when you're like beating Zeus half to death. Like a black smoke comes out of his mouth. That was the evil of Pandora. As far as Zeus as a villain, he's a dude you love to hate. That's really what it comes down to. I wish I could give more, but the more I think about Zeus, it's like he's taking you out because, first off, he regrets having you. If you know Greek mythology, you know, bro, Zeus couldn't stop trying to get laid. Deadbeat dad, addicted to power. Like, in all honesty, because of how iconic he is, I'm going to put him at, like, A-. I'm going to put Pagan Min up to A-. I think that's as high as I can go with him. The next dude I'm not going to be so kind to, Odin. It's been long enough. I'm gonna say the quiet part out loud. God of War Ragnarok, okay? Odin is not a better villain than Zeus. People that say that, you are coping or you are an actual employee of Sony. Odin, in my mind, is such an intriguing character that you could have done a lot with a couple of games, but you killed him off way too quickly. And it kind of just gets into the fact of like, okay, he was a master manipulator, didn't really care for his sons, didn't care for his wives, I got still addicted to power, and was furthering understanding of like the greater world. I think that was a cool touch. They moved him from like being like this warrior to more of like a manipulative psychopath that was just trying to figure out how to get more power, instead of it being like basically another Thor. I think that's about it. I'm going to be real. I would put Odin above Khotun Khan, just because there's a little bit more added complexity to him. But Micah Bell, Micah Bell sticks out more than my memory than Khotun Khan does. Odin is a very forgettable villain. Like, he's just, oh, let's fight you. And his boss fight isn't even that great. Like, B. Makarov. Just a menace, dude. Like, I'll tell you this right now. Makarov as a villain becomes way less impressive when you realize his entire character is just being the most stereotypical menace to America as you possibly could be. Wants to ignite World War III. He wants to bring a new order. Kind of has a Russian group. Like, I don't know if I can say that without getting flagged. He's a fun dude to hate, though. Like, Call of Duty, I think Call of Duty understands that they're not going to write insane villains outside of Prime Separate. We're going to cover Prime Separate. But Makarov, I feel like he has a deeper... I'm talking about Prime Makarov, not the new Makarov. I feel like he has an understanding and like a philosophy that he is willing to die for and kill a lot of people for. But the problem is there's so many villains that have that and frankly are a little bit better written. I'm going to put OG Makarov at the bottom of B tier. To get above that, you have to be better than OG Makarov. Next up, Darth Vader. Dude, Darth Vader. Oh. Red Dead Redemption 1. Red Dead Redemption 2 added a lot of depth to him, which makes Red Dead Redemption 1's Darth Vader a bit better. I'm going to surprise a lot of you with my placement on here. Darth Vader is more evil than Micah Bell. Darth Vader is the father figure of Arthur Morgan, is the father figure of John Marston, but like is parasitic in nature. He is probably one of the best fictional representations of like a parasitic father, of just like. He's manipulated Arthur Morgan and John Marston and everybody in his group to the point that when they are riding off a cliff, and Dutch knows he has to go down with this. He is going down with the ship. And he is convincing everybody else that they have to go down with him. The fact is there is a lot of scenarios where Arthur Morgan could have gone out. John Marston didn't have to die. Jack Marston's fate wasn't supposed to be condemned. All of this could have died with Dutz. Dutz had like this ideology of having freedom outside of like the US government, which I understand, frankly. But It was a freedom of he would subjugate other people and give them this brand of freedom that they could do what they want to serve another cause. He wasn't better than the U.S. government. He wasn't better than the federal, like these federal agents. He just didn't want to serve a master. Dutz, if he was able to get controlled by like the federal government, would be very similar to a Seraph Ross or a Milton. Because he is smart in that way. And he knows enough like about philosophy and like manipulating people that he was able to get like this group of castaways that didn't have a place in society before that. He does this again with Native Americans in part of the first game, but in the second game and first game both, sorry. And because they are like let's be real, they were the ones that this was the easiest message to do. What's better group of people that are going to follow you to attack the federal government than the people that were wronged and had their land stolen by said government? And he led them to their death. Because he doesn't care how many bodies he has to stack up of people that he loved, as long as he isn't on a lease to another master. He would rather, like, I think everybody's heard this quote before, but I heard it about like a character study of Dutz, and I think it sums him up well. Is it better to serve in heaven or to reign in hell? Dutz Vanderland is the guy I think he would choose to reign in hell. It doesn't matter how much pain he's in or his loved ones are in. As long as he doesn't have to serve anybody, he's fine. I gotta put him in S tier, dude. Dutz Vanderland is such a cool character study, and I'll be real with you, is one of the reasons I don't want Red Dead Redemption 2 to get made into a TV show or a movie, because I don't think they're gonna do Dutz right. I think Dutz is gonna be like this almost caricature of what he was, because he is crazy how good of a character he is overall. Next up, Darth Vader. Listen, man, let me just start off really quick, because a lot of you guys have asked me about, like, Star Wars, like a Star Wars tier list, and I will get into that eventually, like Star Wars projects, Force users, and all that, but let me just say this. Darth Vader is one of the greatest, if not the greatest villain in the entirety of fiction. It is so wild just how good of a character he is. Like, Anakin Skywalker to his transformation into Darth Vader and the redemption of Darth Vader is one of the greatest tales of redemption in the entirety of fiction. It is that good. It is crazy how well it was done in Star Wars. And in video games, I'm talking about Force Unleashed. He is such a good oppressive force to Starkiller in there. Starkiller is kind of seen as like this person of almost unlimited potential, but has like this, was given a purpose to serve Darth Vader to overthrow the Emperor. And Starkiller's journey to understanding where his place is in this entire thing. And he's basically an abused dog. Darth Vader is basically an abusive owner in the Star Wars Force Unleashed video games. But it's done so well, dude. Darth Vader is such a great villain in there. Because there's such a personal connection that you have to Darth Vader in there. You want to kill him, but you know you can't, but you want to get your licks in while you can. I think even in Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2, which is kind of seen as not a better game than Force Unleashed 1. However, also, how many versions of Force Unleashed were made? Like, genuinely, isn't it like 13 different versions of that game were made in total? Which is insane, by the way. I'm just checking my battery. Darth Vader as a villain. A tier, dude. I'm going to put Darth Vader. Who do I have left on here? I'm actually going to put him at the bottom of S tier. That's my last S tier for the video. I can't do another S tier, dude. I just can't. Darth Vader, I mean, he was either going in S tier or Legacy. Don't worry. You're going to get a Legacy villain. But Darth Vader's my last S tier. Next up, OG General Shepard. I'm only doing the OG. Frankly, if I had to do Prime, like, if I had to do current General Shepard, he wouldn't even be on this list. Current General Shepard is beneath Alduin. Like, Prime General Shepard killed Ghost, dude. Portrayed the squad. And, like, you had this vendetta. Like, there was a vendetta between Makarov and Price. But then there was also, like, a greater betrayal, like, synced into everything with the OG squad and General Shepard. What an asshole, too, dude. But, like, Where Shepard becomes interesting is you feel like there is a greater purpose to what he is doing. Like, he's loyal to his country and loyal to his country alone. He does not care who has to die there. And in his mind, he is doing the right thing. He is doing the ugly part that he has to do. There's no malice in killing ghosts. There's no malice in betraying you. There is only, I have to do this. And that can work a lot of the time. But General Shepard, I feel like you could have taken it farther. You could have made him a better villain. I'm going to put OG Shepard in C tier. He's not as good as Prime Makarov. Prime Makarov is a legit menace, dude. Next up, the Dark Lord, Lucifer. What I think his name is Veloroth or something. It's like a Roth or something. I'm gonna call him the Dark Lord. He is the enemy of the Doomslayer. There's a lot of lore to get to. What you need to understand is the Dark Lord, as you know him in Doom Eternal, is actually the god of the universe. He created everything. But he became oppressive to his creations. And then his number 2 guy, in this case, would have been like the devil, was able to overthrow him and trap him in what later became hell. And the god of the Doom universe in the faith would actually be Lucifer. But he turned out to be a good dude, and the OG guy was a bad guy. Like, they did a little twist on there with a creation created things only to subjugate them, and the person that was in number 2 wanted to liberate them. He was corrupted for so long, because you also understand hell is also kind of like an ever-corrupting force of nature in the multiverse, and that's how he's going through all these universes and attacking. Where Doomslayer comes into it is Doomslayer is the reincarnation of the Dark Lord, and he was given the power by the Seraphim, and that's why he's so powerful. He has the power. He's basically Archangel Michael fighting the Dark Lord. That is the story of Doom. However, he's a dude that you like to fight, but really, as you boil it down, he's just a really, really bad guy. That is it. Like, there's no deeper motivation. There's a cool lore element, and that's why he goes above D tier, but I'm going to put him at the bottom of C tier, dude. He's just not... When you strip away the layers, he's not that good. It's not a deep onion. Bowser. Listen, I'm going to make some people mad here, but let's be real here. Do I really need to do a 1-minute explanation on Bowser? Yeah, no. He's a legacy villain. Like, you have to put him here. Legacy villain. Same thing with Ganondorf. I have never played a Zelda game in my entire life, but I feel like if I made this video and didn't include Ganondorf, y'all would be pissed at me. Again, legacy villain. He's been around long enough that he's earned himself a spot as a legacy villain, which basically it's like, are they the best written? No. They are good written, and they've stood the test of time. Legacy. The Gravemind from Halo. Dude, I said it once in the zombie tier list, I'll say it again. The Flood is, in my mind, the greatest zombie plague in fiction. It is that good. There's only a few that I would put as a challenger, but the thought that there's a hive mind virus that is the natural predator of, like, organic life, that they had to create a super slide, a galaxy super slide event to take care of them, because that was the only way that they could beat it, which really just starved them. That's one thing I got wrong. I thought it just deleted them. No. It killed off their food source, and they later died over a millennia later, and then they brought back a life. The Flood is it's such a cool thing. What the hive mind is he is the collective consciousness of the entirety of the Flood, and thus has all the knowledge that has been procured out of all of their organic things that have been taken. What I mean by that is, for example, if you, the person watching this, was like a NASA engineer, that'd be kind of wild, and you knew how to build a jet, okay? Build a jet, something propulsion-wise, right? And then it took your buddy, who is really good at aerospace design. They would take both of you guys, convert you into organic matter, but they would take your knowledge, and that would go to the hive mind. And the hive mind is the Flood personified with all the collective knowledge of everything that has taken over. The scene in Halo 2 where the Hive Mind is speaking to the Arbiter and Master Chief is one of my favorite scenes in video games. Bro, Prime Halo was undefeated. I'm going to put the Hive Mind. He's better than Zeus, bro. He's better than Zeus. The scene where he talks to Master Chief and Arbiter is better than every single scene Zeus is in the original God of War trilogy. It just is. But yes, A tier. Next up, the Joker from the Arkham video games. Here's the thing. I'm gonna have to knock him because it's the Joker. You already have a lot of stuff to go off of. I do like how Arkham was able to make it a little bit darker, but the Joker really is just the perfect foil to Batman in terms of Batman is the personification of order, and then you're talking about the morals of, would it be better if I just capped Joker? Yes, it would be better if you just capped Joker. I don't understand, like, I saw a funny meme where it was like, if you murder a murderer, the amount of murderers that are walking around stays the same, and thus you haven't really done anything different. And then the first comment was, okay, but what if I kill 2 murderers? Big brain! Yes, kill Joker! There's no reason! But yeah, Joker as a villain, though. I mean, like, it's a crime, dude. Like, here's the thing. I don't hold him in as high a regard as a Darth Vader, as a Dutch Van der Linde, or a Vaas. However, he is... okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna move him to the bottom of A tier, and I'm gonna move Zeus to the top of B tier. Flip flop, done. I think that fixed it. Don't get mad at me. Next up, I'm going to get crucified in the comment section for this one. Khotun Khan. He is a less, like, he's a worse written Khotun Khan. Like, genuinely. Like, I don't even blame him because, like, were they really focusing on writing back in the day for Mortal Kombat? No, they weren't, because once you understand that the entirety of Mortal Kombat's story was pretty much made up on the go, like, they had to change the identity of Scorpion and Sub-Zero over and over again because they kept on, were like, no, but this would be cool, but this would be cool. How many fucking reboots have we had about Mortal Kombat? Because they get salty with how the story turns out, and the Warner Bros. Comes a knocking and says, you gotta make another game, and they don't want to resolve the past storyline, so they just make another one. And, like, I'm taking my anger out on Khotun Khan, but, like, I'll be real, Khotun Khan as written, like, what timeline are we talking about? I'm going to put him C tier. Actually, I'm putting him in D tier, bro. I'm putting him in D. Alduin's more memorable, damn, than Khotun Khan is at times. Sang Sun is a better written villain, especially in the new continuity. Sang Sun is better than Khotun Khan. Sang Sun is, like, he is like this little underhanded weasel, but you find out is like the anti Liu Kang. I was about to say Kung Lao. Liu Kang, multiversal threat with, let me just say this, I'm so sick and tired of the fucking multiverse in every little bit of fiction. Like, okay, 1 minute rant, okay? The multiverse is one of the most lazy narrative tools ever created, because what it does is it means every single writer, when they're writing something, they could be like, oh, well, this is set in a different universe. Like, it's so annoying because you can't say anything to it. And if I say, oh, it's the shitty writing, you'll be like, that's just lack of creativity. They're doing it in another multiverse. Don't you understand that, stupid? Like, motherfucker, what are you talking about? Like, this is objectively bad writing, and that you're passing off as like, oh, well, we're allowed to do that. Multiverse should be reserved for, like, very few projects that actually does it well. I'll say it, like, this sounds cringe. Rick and Morty did the multiverse better than any superhero movie ever. Like, just leave it to them, okay? And they didn't do time travel because time travel is a very, very bad narrative device. Okay, 1 minute rant over. Sang Sun is a pretty good character, though. I'll put him above the Dark Lord, because the Dark Lord is just a bad dude for the sake of being a bad dude. Sang Sun, there's actually a little bit of motivation there. Next up, Sauron, from Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor. Okay. I might make a few of you mad. Let me just talk about this really quick. Sauron is one of the most overrated villains in the entirety of fiction. What the fuck did he do? What did he do in the Lord of the Rings novels? Like, everything that he did was done before. Like, you have to hear about the tales of stuff that he did in the beginning of the first book, a little bit strewed out between, like, all the books. But, like, there's never a point where Sauron comes out and is, like, doing the business, okay? Like, he is such a menace that the entirety of the world has to work against the thought of him being brought back to life. Cool! Why can't that just be brought to the screen? I remember watching The Hobbit, and I didn't understand a lot of Lord of the Rings lore, and frankly, I'm not an expert, but I can tell you this, there's a lot of Lord of the Rings lore that you could make a movie on that just falls flat on its face because you're like, no, the Tolkien estate's better. Like, brother, what are we talking about? Like, you have the Dark Lord. Like, all the stories of Sauron that you can do. And you're just not going to do it because you don't want to piss off the Tolkien estate? And, like, dude, there's more action. Sauron does more shit in the Lord of the Rings video games than he does in the entirety of the movies. In all the movies, it's something crazy that out of all of the movies, he has a combined 1 minute of screen time? 3 minutes of screen time, maybe? There was a deleted scene where, like, Sauron reincarnates and fights in the final battle of the third movie, but they were told no because that would hurt the Tolkien lore. Okay, can we stop talking about Sauron being one of the greatest villains in fiction when he didn't do fucking shit for 3 movies, and you saw him 1 time? Darth Vader is hilariously better than Sauron. I understand there's a lot of lore that's in place beforehand, and Shadow of Mordor touches on that. But, like, overall, dude, like, he's better than the Dark Lord of Doom. But he does more shit than Sauron does. But there you go. That's going to be my rant on just some video game villains that I want to talk about. This will probably be a series that I'll have to revisit time and time again because there's a lot of villains even right now that I'm thinking about that I could have put in here. But yeah, this was definitely a fun video. I think this is either the 5K, 6K special. Thank you everybody who's joining so far. I've been playing Elden Ring, Shadow of the Earth Tree. That's why there was a delay on this, but I needed to take a break because I've been fighting Mesmer the Impaler and Baal the Dread. And I will be making a tier list on the difficulty of every single boss in the DLC. Dungeons to Remembrance bosses. Because I have a lot of Elden Ring fans that watch this channel. I'll get that out when I eventually beat the DLC and 100% it. Thank you everybody who watches my content. It means the absolute most to me. The growth is insane. And as far as a goal for the channel, 100K subscribers by July of next year, 2025. July 2025, I want to be at 100,000 subscribers. That would be absolutely insane, and I will be doing a giveaway. If I don't get a sponsor, I'll just do it out of my own money. If you guys want a PS5, Xbox, or some shit, I'll get you some stuff like that. Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you all next time. Adios.